will be happening above the austenitic finish temperature. When a material is above its austenitic finish temperature, depending on its alloy composition, that temperature can be cannot be fixed. Depends on the alloy composition and type of alloy you use. So when it is above its austenitic finish temperature, and then at that particular temperature, if the material is deformed, it transforms into austenite. And when that is undeformed, it again regains, it transforms into martensite again. So this phenomenon is occurs in a temperature above austenitic finish temperature, and this thing observes as a hysteresis loop, and that is a pseudoelastic effect. And these two type of effects make the this particular shape memory alloys promising materials. So what are the different types of alloy compositions which can be seen, which shows this particular type of shaping? This has been observed in copper, zinc, nickel, aluminum type of alloys, copper, aluminum, nickel alloys, nickel titanium alloys, which are called nitinols, and some alloys which can also be created by alloying zinc, copper, gold, and iron. So these different types of alloys, in is copper based, nickel based, and all. This nickel based alloys are a bit slightly costlier. As we go on to precious metals for like gold and iron becomes costlier, and as mostly used, this nitinol is more like it is a slightly a workhorse for this type of materials. So synthesis routes, when you come back to the synthesis route, this particular alloys can be synthesized using ingot metallurgy, which is a melting. Ingot metallurgy is nothing but melting the material, casting it. And it's a melting. Material will be melted and then casted, or a rod forcing will be doing to getting into a final shapes. And second method is powder metallurgy. Here, the initial starting materials will be powders and will be achieving the shapes. So ingot metallurgy, different types of techniques can be used, especially for this type of shape memory alloys. You should be using vacuum melting techniques, because oxygen in the atmosphere is a very problematic thing. Anyway, generally when you speak about oxygen content and oxide formation, oxygen content in the material itself is higher. When oxygen content is a material, it affects obviously a room temperature ductility in adverse way. So that is with respect to ductility. But in the case of shape memory alloys, what happens is it adversely affects the shape memory effect of the alloy. So we need to be doing any process to produce a shape memory alloy should be very inert atmosphere, such as argon controlled atmosphere, or vacuum type of melting furnaces should be used to produce this, and which makes the particular production of these materials a bit costly. On the other hand, when you use ingot metallurgy route, the cast materials will, because here what shape memory alloys you need to be produced in different types of shapes, from wires to until sheets, different types of shapes you need to be doing for different applications. So when using this ingot metallurgy, what happens, the material you'll be using should be machined to get the shape. Finally, take the shape, slightly machining should be done to get the shape. And machining, especially in the case of nitinol type of alloys, will be a bit difficult because of the work hardenability of this alloy. So it will be difficult. So in this juncture, and also avoid this oxygen type of contamination, and also to mainly to reduce the effects of cost effects of this machining, and also the difficult to machining tendency makes the powder metallurgy technique to be promising. So what is powder metallurgy? So in this powder metallurgy, anyway, I'll be explaining a few slides regarding this. So here, basically, the one thing should be accounted. This powder metallurgy is a promising technique to produce a net and near net shapes. Net and near net shape means it no need to use the finishing operations such as machining type of operations. In this, directly you'll be getting a very near net that is close to the material or net shape. Net shape means the final shape. So this is the beauty of this particular powder metallurgy process. And whenever you use this type of process, when you produce ultra-fine and nanostructured materials, it will be easy to process, to shape these materials, because what happens when you produce this ultra-fine nanostructured type of materials, the brittle to ductile, as you go to higher temperature, brittle to ductile transition of this temperature, this particular alloys with ultra-fine and nanostructured materials will be lowered. That means these materials can be processed at lower temperatures, which also benefits in reducing the tooling costs. So the importance of this particular technique is here. Any type of different composition which are not possible with conventional methods of melting cashing can be obtained, can be produced here. And as I told, near net shape, net and near net shaping is also very, very important, significant. This is for this particular method. And in some cases, segregation type of problems in element loss also reduced. So here the basic slide shows what happens in this powder metallurgy route. It initially powders, if any, in this case we are speaking about the shape memory. So any composition of shape memory like powders can be die compacted. After die compaction, this is how it looks from a microscopic scale, and in a macroscopic scale it looks like this. Which is called a green compact, because the particles are unbounded and they are just intact to each other, and there is no interparticle bonding. This particular condition is called green compact. Production of this green compact becomes very essential because it gives powders to easy to handle, and also a P-shape of the final material can be obtained. Next step is sintering to impart the interparticle bonding in between the particle. That is done to a mechanism which is called sintering. Sintering is a mechanism that means directly a green compact, if it is heated higher temperatures, depending on the type of composition, near to its melting point, above 0.8 of the melting point, this interparticle bonding will be imparted. Depending on the section size, you'll be setting the time requirement, and you'll be producing a bulk material. So conversion, in some cases, what happens, the people also go from powders directly to a bulk material. How? By doing hot pressing, by using the powders to produce a direct bulk material by using hot assay static. Different types of techniques. In some cases, powders can be directly forged. So that also can be done. Anyway, this process of conversion of a green compact to a bulk material with bulk consolidated, which is with bonding, is called a consolidation. So basic steps in this particular technique involves milling and mixing, and mixing is done in some cases. When I am using it a binary ternary composition, mixing becomes essential, because what happens when mixing, if you are taking different elements, I need to homogenize to produce an alloy. In that case, mixing becomes essential. And further on, some cases, people want to produce only a composite type of powders. For example, I use a TI, Ni, or any copper-based shape memory. What you can do is ternary composition. You can take, mill it, mix it first to homogenize, and then mill it. Only I can do mechanical milling or mechanical alloying. Mechanical milling, in which I'll be using slightly lower speed, lower RPM, and I'll be you'll be what you can do is for milling for some time at slightly lower RPM. It will be higher RPM, but as compared to mechanical mill alloying, it will be slightly lower with respect to the same composition. Will be reducing the grain size, reducing the particle size in this case. In the case of mechanical alloying, what we will be doing the same operation, but the thing is the milling time will be higher, milling RPM will be higher. Depending on it, you'll be producing a mechanical alloy in a solid solution type of materials. So then you'll be doing a die compaction. Die compaction in some cases, most of the cases, people will be doing, and to sintering. And then consolidation. And this is a thing. First, you need to get a bulk material. Bulk material then can be processed using thermomechanical techniques to achieve a net and near net shape. So this is the method we'll be doing. And before going further, we can discuss about this. I spoke about this nano and ultra fine. These are the size ranges of material, because these type of materials in a bulk form reduces the brittle to ductile transition. Because here we are speaking about shape memory alloys, and we speak about different applications. So when you do this producing of bulk nanostructured, bulk ultra fine type of alloys will be helpful, because as I told, that will reduce the brittle to ductile transition temperatures of the particular alloy as compared to the coarser grained counterparts. So what happens? The processing temperatures will be reduced. So will be the net shapes and near net shapes can be achieved at a lower temperatures. These are the different size ranges of the materials. Nanomaterials are the materials which are having their components between 1 to 100 nanometers. Nanostructured materials are the materials, those materials which are having the grain size in the range of 1 to 100 nanometers. And ultrafine submicrocline, which is having the grain size between 100 to 1000 nanometer, which is 1 micrometer. And bulk materials, nanostructural materials, are the solid consolidated bulk materials. Bulk means, generally bulk consolidated means it is having interparticle bonding in a bulk form. And we are having a grain size in the case of 1 to 100 nanometers. So this particular, as we spoke about alloying and all, so how this can be achieved? This can be achieved by using a high energy ball mill. High energy ball mill it is called high energy mill because it transfers high energy from the balls to the powders. Here the mill consists of a vial and balls to powder ratio. A lot of parameters are there. Briefly, if you explain here is you do have balls and a container which is called a vial. In that you will be putting your powders, and the mill will be rotated and in a planetary motion. So what happens because of that energy transfer will take place. So there are two types of things we can do. One is wet milling, one is dry milling. Wet milling, in that we'll be using a organic surfactant such as toluene. This is very essential to impart two type of functions. One is to as a process control agent. That means it balance between fracturing and the cold welding during the milling process, and as well as it protects the powders from oxidation from atmosphere. So in dry milling, we'll be using a PCA which is in a solid form. In sticking tendency is more in dry milling. So sticking, because of the high energy transfer, what happens is the sticking tendency will be more in the dry milling. This is a typical mill. As I told, this is a vial, how and the powders of this shape memory alloy, which is TiNi. Detail you can see. So this is approximately some 50 grams of powder here. 100 grams approximately. Yes, 100 grams of powder. You can see. So this is a way the mill moves in a planetary motion. It rotates itself and then moves around. It's like it resembles a planetary motion, so that is why it is called planetary mill. So because of this action, what happens is the balls will impart the transfer the energy to the powder particles. Because of that, what happens? Size reduction and also mechanical alloying takes place. That depends on the type of parameters. So especially to synthesize nano structured materials, these are the type of condition used. Milling at a lower speed and then milling at a mixing at a lower speed. That is called mixing, and then milling should be done at a higher speed depending on the type of alloy. In some cases, you'll be using 200 RPM for some alloy, will be a milling condition for other alloy. So that depends. For the same alloy comparison, you can do, but for different alloys, it will be slightly different. In the case of binary and ternary composition, it becomes very essential to before milling to ensure homogenization. That is what. Milling can produce nano composite powders and in some cases, people produce mechanical alloyed powder. Alloyed means if you want a TiNi, you need to know alloy or copper-based CuAlNi alloy. So types of phases you need and type of alloy. The alloy will be complete in the mill itself, and you get the powders after milling. You will be the powders are mechanical alloy. That is my alloyed powders. In some cases, you will be using a composite type of powders. Composite type of powders are that powders which are not alloyed, but hello. Hello, any doubts? I'm getting some noise. Any question?
He muted, no problem. He muted.
Yeah. Okay. So in some cases, what happens is people go for the nano composite powder. So what happens is non-composite powders will be beneficial in some cases because of the lower hardness to. Because of this lower hardness, what happens? You can process the materials very easily. The mechanism milling is these different types of forces, impact forces, shear type of forces, and frictional type of forces will be imparted to the material, powder material. Because of that, the size reduction or the mechanical alloying will take place. And one more thing to be remembered is very essential: balls and vials should be made of same material. Otherwise, a softer material used as a vial and harder material used as a ball, it will be a problematic situation. And the yield of the powder also depends on the type. The thing is, what happens when sticking is more, yield will be there. Where you think of making of some composition powders, and in that you don't keep an eye on the milling condition. And if you produce if you put 100 grams of powders in it, and if you achieve 90 grams of powder, the 10 grams of powders are gone in this particular sticking tendency. Because of that, you will be deviating from the composition. That should be taken care. The higher the yield, the better the. These are typical type of copper-based shape memory alloy powders which are produced. This is how it looks. The powder particle. If you go for higher magnification, lamella type of structure. And this is how a powder particle. These type of powders can be used to further process. So later on, cold compaction. Cold compaction is for two conditions. One is sufficient strength to achieve the handling of the powders, and another one establish contact between the particles. And this, as I explained previously, this is a condition is called green condition. Next step is sintering. Sintering is to turn a powder compact into true single solid material with desired strength by establishing atomic bonding. And this is done above 0.8 Tm and below the melting temperature of the particular material. Key stages: initial stage, next will form in the neighboring part, because you are producing bulk material of shape memory. These stages are very important because there should not be any prior particle boundaries from here and any unbounded powder particles whenever you do a powder, this type of powder metallurgy technique. So intermediate stage, what happens is formation of the breaking of the open pores and formation of a closed pores. Final stage, reduction of pores. That can be seen from this. These are the loose powders. In each stage, next will be found that will be uncharged, and finally the pores take a round shape and then boundaries will be exposed. And in some cases, if the one of the component, one of the component of the ternary or a binary alloy is having a lower melting point. This particular type of thing is called liquid phase sintering. This will accelerate the sintering phenomenon. However, in liquid phase sintering, the amount of liquid should be lesser than 10%. If it is more, it will be complicated. So in this case, phase transformations can also be accelerated. So now coming back to this thing, synthesis of bulk shape memory alloys can be done by using these different types of powder metallurgy, powder processing techniques, which is hot pressing, spark plasma sintering, powder compact extrusion, which is or direct powder extrusion, powder compact forging or powder forging, powder injection molding, hot isostatic pressing, and channel angular pressing. In this particular talk, I will be concentrating on a few of these particular techniques and in some applications. So the general procedure of the producing a net near net shape using this particular technique is given in this flow chart. Either elemental powders of the shape memory composition, either titanium based or copper based in elemental form you can use, directly mill it, either alloying or composite you can powder and then cold compaction, and then produce it and further thermomechanical consolidation and multiple processing to achieve a net or near shape. In some cases, you'll be getting directly pre-alloyed powders. Pre-alloyed powders are already alloyed. So, but in some directly you can use these powders, or people want to like reduce the grain size. You can reduce the particle size also. You can go for a milling technique in this case. Otherwise, milling may not be essential in this case unless you go for a grain refinement. It's needed. Then the same procedure will be followed to achieve a net and net shapes. So this is the typical procedure for production of a net shapes by using different types of powder compact extrusion, powder compact forging, and hot isostatic pressing. These type of techniques use more or less this type of procedure. One is these powders will be cold pressed and then cold isostatic pressed, or warm pressed. Both will not be done. Cold pressing, after cold pressing, you will be getting a reshape. This cold isostatic pressing will be done for improving the density of the bulk material. Improving the not bulk material, improving the density of the green compact. Sorry, improving the density of the green compact. And then you can go further. In some cases, what happens, you can do cold pressing at a green compact and do a warm pressing. Warm pressing is also a die pressing, but it's slightly at a higher temperature below the Rickers-Lejeune temperature. So you can also do this to improve the density. Further, canning. In some cases, you can do a canning with different types of material. Here it is still canning using stainless steel tubes. In the case of titanium-based titnos, you can use, but in the case of copper, you'll be using like uncanned, or you'll be using a different type of glass. By using glass blowing, you will be sealing it and you will be producing a bulk material. So degassing. In this case, degassing becomes very essential because whenever you produce a powder, especially for use it for extrusion, forging, hot isostatic pressing, what are these type of procedures are thermomechanical processing techniques. So because of this, what happens in the gas which is there inside the green compact or powders or a green compact, powder condition or a green compact condition, any of the case, that gases which are entrapped inside the vacant sites, which are pores inside the material, should be evacuated. So this step becomes very essential. Why? Because this should be evacuated prior to doing this process. Otherwise, what happens? You are forging it, you are extruding it, or you are hot isostatic pressing it. What happens during forging? What happens? And this particular gas will create a pressure opposite to the forging direction. Because of that, the material will create a defect, which is nothing but a crack. the cracks will produce. In the case of extrusion, also the same type of process, same type of defect may be induced. On the other hand, when you do hot isostatic pressing, what happens is this particular evacuation becomes very, very essential. Why? Because you can't compress a fluid, a gas, isn't it? It is very difficult because the gas is there inside your particular green compact, and you are heating it. Heating increases the volume of the gas, and because of that, your particular sample distorts, and your particular method of producing bulk material will be adversely affected. So if everything everything is monitored fine, and degassing is done, finally you can produce a net and near net shapes. This is one type of process in which different types of material titanium based. Here it shows NiTi based nitinol type of shape emerald produced can be produced. Powders doing cold isostatic pressing, cold isostatic pressing, anything, either of the one of either cold isostatic pressing can be used to improve the density of the green compact, or warm pressing, and then produce a green sample with a higher green density. And then induction heating, and then finally forging. It's open die forging to produce different types of pancakes. So here the thing is, whenever doing open die forging for this type of alloys, especially in the case of nitinol, what happens? It should be done in an inert atmosphere, because to avoid the oxidation. If you oxidize, you lose the shape memory effect, because the main phase you need is NiTi phase, and that should be there for this type of effect during the production of this alloy. If you do have oxygen content, more oxygen content, what happens is that phases will be deviated. You'll be forming different phases like Ti-Ni2 and other phases which are having even oxygen inside it. So production of this because of the oxygen content, the presence of these other phases formation takes place. Because of this, the shape memory effect will be affected. On the other hand, when you do open type of forging process, you will also have, need to be taking care of the particular strain rate of a forging. That should not be too fast, and that should not be very slow. And if it is very, very fast, what happens is this type of cracking from the outer edges will take place, because of the there is no lateral constraint of during hot forging. So this should be taken care. Other method which you can produce uses general vertical type of forging using a die. A die upper will consist of upper part and a lower part, from which you will be using a green compact here, and you will be pressurizing it, and heating will be done using a band heaters or different types of heating techniques, such as even induction heating if you have a very big oil, and generally band heaters will be used. And this particular upper portion of punch will be pressed by the ram, and you'll be getting a, depending on the type of lower die and the constriction here, this is where the extrusion ratio will be designing. During designing die, you will be making the extrusion ratio. Depending on it, this die will be designed, and you'll be getting a extruded rods. So this is the typical extruded rod which is produced, which is shape memory TiNi rod, which is nitinol. The powders will compacted into green compact, and further it is done using the same procedure to produce a green compact. Nevertheless, rod are approximately in a bigger size has been produced. Anyway, in these cases, when you do especially extrusion, the lubrication becomes very, very important. Lubrication becomes very important. Otherwise, what happens if lubrication is not good, because you're doing these things at higher temperatures. So production of this type of net shapes, because for the production of different rods, or if you use a mandrel, you can also produce a hollow tube for this type of material. It becomes very challenging, and also it is very, very promising. Here, the usage of lubricant becomes very important. In some cases, people use graphite dispersion type of, or graphite, pure solid graphite powder, or a graphite in a dispersion. And in some cases, people also use glass type of lubricant to produce a extruded rods. This is the typical XRD of the TiNi powders produced, in which you can see the TiNi phase, which is visible, which is can tell that it is a particular, like resembles a shape memory. Also, other phases, which is Ti2Ni, TiNi3 are also found, which are not recommended, because the presence of these type of phases will deteriorate properties. Anyway, this presence of these phases can be because of the oxygen content. So the presence of oxygen content in this alloy made this the formation of these phases. Anyway, nevertheless, you got TiNi powders as well as in a extruded rod. Resembles this particular material, shows a shape memory effect. This is a typical tensile graph of this material, showing the flattened peak, which is nothing but a shape memory effect. This in extruded rod, resembling the shape memory effect. And pseudo-elastic behavior is also observed in this at a temperature above AF temperature of this material is around 800 degrees centigrade in and tensile testing. We have observed a pseudo-elastic type of behavior, which is a hysteresis is observed with a slight residual strain in each of the cycle. So this shows the this particular technique is promising in producing the shape memory alloy with the shape memory properties. It becomes very essential to synthesize shape memory alloy, bulk shape memory alloy with shape memory properties, including all this like oxygen type content. And one more thing is to produce a net shape. Net shape means complicated shapes, different shapes, such as rods, producing rods, sheets, plates, and all. And this also one way shape memory is also observed. A piece of material got from this particular alloy produced using water metallurgy. You can see the original shape and deforming. In this alloy, this material has been deformed at lesser than MF temperature of this material, and then it is heated at hot water. Simply hot water kept at above this AF temperature. This is approximately near 90 degrees, 80 degrees centigrade. Above it made this material regain its shape. So this is the phenomenon as this is occurring as explained before. This is happened. This material showed a shape memory type of property, shape memory effect. Other techniques also can be used using which is hot isostatic pressing. Here degassing should be done by using a continuous degassing, and when after degassing the material, it should be clamped and welded and then sealed. And then this is the type of heap furnace which uses argon gas to pressurize. And heating and pressurizing will be done at the same time in this case to produce a welding. This is a typical type of cans produced for other alloys. This is the same procedure can be used here, is being used by the researchers also to produce a bulk material. This is the can with a powder or a grain compact sealed, and then after heaping, this is how the can resembles. This can be can be cut using different types of medium type of cutting to get the material inside the particular can. In some cases, bonding of the material will be observed. In some cases, bonding may not be there. So generally, diffusion bonding of this type of materials will be occurring at the edges of the material between the stainless steel can and the material. This type of this is the hysteresis type of curve, which is cycle 1, cycle 2, which is pseudoelastic behavior observed in a HIP can using NiTi alloy produced using HIP at 1050 degrees centigrade. This material also was good in showing the shape memory properties with using the powder metallurgy route, and also hipping by using a hipping as a consolidation, as a bulk consolidation technique. So here you can tell in our lab we have already produced some powders which are TiNi nickel based powders, which are which have the higher oxygen content, but we need to concentrate on reducing the oxygen content, and also for copper, aluminum, nickel based alloys, we also synthesized bulk material, but at this bulk material should be further characterized to show the shape memory effects. So in all these cases, what happens is, here if we go for a hysteresis loop, what happens is this is done at in this case it is done at 21 degrees. That is above the AF temperature of this particular alloy. So what is happening above AF temperature means when you deform this material, this transforms into a particular martensite thick structure. And when you release the load, because it is above the AF temperature, when you release the load, what happens? This martensite again converts into a austenite of the space, resembling the shape again, regaining the shape. So this is a pseudoelastic behavior which has also been observed in our case of TiNi alloy. So while in the case of copper-based alloy, some more bulk materials have been produced using vacuum hot pressing, and different types of densities observed with different types of milling powder milled at different conditions. Anyway, 96%, 95 to 96% bulk materials have been produced, which at present we are yet to know the shape memory type of properties for this type of materials. That means we need to do DSC's difference calorimetry have resembled some type of air, but that should be confirmed further. But in a bulk material, slightly bigger sample need to be produced to do a tensile testing on this particular material. That was work is in process. So the different types of potential applications for these type of alloys, aerospace and self-adapting deformable wing, especially for the turbulence of an aeroplane is at higher altitudes, different types of turbulent conditions. These NASA also is working on this particular materials, and in some cases it is already been commercialized. And rotor crafts, these are the typical applications. And bioimplants, which is organ frame retractor, and also coronary stent. Whenever arteries have been blocked using gas, any flow of the blood, so these stents will be put inside the material. So coronary stents are produced are nothing but your shape memory. In civil cases, reinforcements in seismic regions, which are where seismic regions, earthquake type of conditions. What happens in that cases is, whenever this reinforcement is there, when this type of deformation takes place, this goes beyond yield, and then when this comes back, it doesn't go for a permanent deformation. Because of this, what happens, the structure will be safe. And braces of frame structures and damping elements in bridges, this is also very important to protect the bridge. So these in civil applications, these are the some applications of this shape memory panels. In automobile parts, body frames in advanced vehicles and actuators, which both thermal and electrical and fuel rail systems are some of the applications. So concluding remarks, is synthesis of bulk SMAs is feasible using economical techniques and also to produce a net type of shapes by further processing it. And the deformability of these materials are very good because of the technique being used, and also by using this type of technique, which is extrusion, water compact extrusion, hot pressing, and hot isostatic pressing. However, in these cases, a few things should be considered. The control of oxygen should be monitored by doing processing it in a very high controlled atmosphere, such as in vacuum, etc. And in some cases, the low level of interparticle bonding is observed. Especially, this is not a good sign, because whenever you have a low level of interparticle bonding, what happens is will be this will be deteriorating the material further, because when you do a consolidation, that means bulk from a grain compact, you convert into a bulk material. If you have any type of low level of interparticle bonding, what happens is this further, when you do a further processing, this type of behavior like defects, this acts as a defect and results in a premature failure of the materials. So this is where I'll be concluding talk. Any questions, you can please let me know.
डॉक्टर विजय,
Yes, sir.
हो गया? Okay. Okay. Any question from participant side? I think there are no questions from participant side. Huh? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vijay.
Thank you, sir.
Very nice talk. Very nice talk.
Thank you, sir.
And participant, please join at 2:30, which I sent you separate link for your WhatsApp as well as email. On that link, click.